Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about red flags to look out for when you're starting in a new med spa. Working in a med spa has been my favorite thing I have done so far as a nurse. If you're planning on becoming an aesthetic nurse, you're more than likely going to be working in a med spa. Not every med spa is created equally, and I want to tell you guys about a few things to look out for when applying for med spa jobs. When I say not every med spa is created equally, some med spas are not as safe as other med spas, and I want to make sure you avoid getting wrapped up in an unsafe situation. Of course, your license is always the most important thing when getting a new job. You don't want to work somewhere that's not safe. So I'm going to help point out some things that when you go for your interview or your first week on the job, if you see these things, maybe take a second and reevaluate the situation. The first red flag to look out for when starting at a new med spa is a lack of cleanliness. Now, it's never going to be as clean as maybe in the hospital where everything is getting bleached 24/7, but there should be some sort of regular cleaning going on, whether that's wiping down counters, wiping down the chairs that the patients sit in, changing out the sheets, wiping down like the lab or centrifuge area. Cleanliness is important because it reflects a lot of things. We don't want our patients getting infections. We want our patients coming in, having a clean bed to sit on, having clean equipment used on them. We don't want patients getting germs or getting sick from a patient that was there before. So cleanliness is huge. I think it's a huge indicator for how the business is run as well. If you go in and surfaces are all kind of nasty, dirty, fingerprinted up, if you pick things up and they're greasy, you see like old dried blood on the centrifuge, it's just kind of a bad sign that maybe there are other things that are sort of being let go as well. Definitely look out for cleanliness. Another pretty big red flag would be lack of supplies. Now, I don't mean we're out of something, we've been trying to order it kind of situation, more that there's a chronic lack of supplies in every area. Now, this might be coming to work and there's no gloves for a week, or you come to work and there's no sharps containers, no cleaning wipes, no blood draw kits, so you have to use different things like an IV and drip it into a tube, like, you know, just Doctors Without Borders kind of situations. It's one thing if you just run out of something and you're just making do, but if it seems like they're always out of supplies or you're always trying to make do without the supplies you need, that's probably a red flag that things are not being managed correctly. My next big red flag is if they're using expired products. I'm pretty strict about expiration dates. I definitely don't use products that are multiple months or years expired. If you are going to use products at your new job, at your new med spa, and you notice that the sterile water is expired or the Botox is expired, red flag. That should be setting off alarm bells in your head. That's a huge red flag. That's not safe for the patient. That could get you in trouble if it came out that you were using expired products on a patient without checking that. I always chart the expiration date on products I use on the patient because I want to cover myself, CYA, and I don't want the patient to have a bad outcome because I used expired sterile water or expired Botox, just for example. Always be checking the expiration date on the products you're using, and if it seems like everything is expired all the time, start to wonder why. Okay, another red flag is really bad communication or no one being on the same page. If you have one person reaching out to you over email trying to set up an interview, but then you go in and the manager didn't even know you were coming for an interview, or there's a bunch of confusion about when you'll be working or what days, that all starts to translate into your everyday work life. There's miscommunication with patients, there's miscommunication with what the patient was told, with what things are going to charge, and if they're having trouble keeping things straight with you when you're brand new, I would definitely look at that really closely and wonder why there's such bad communication, whether it's something that could be fixed or if it's something that's chronic. Okay, the next red flag is huge, something I really stand by. If you're being asked to lie to patients, that's a huge red flag. Never lie to your patients. Your word as an injector, your word as an aesthetic nurse is everything. I always tell my patients I don't BS them. I will never BS them. If I don't think they're a good candidate for something, I'm not going to recommend it to them just to make a sale. That kind of stuff just like hurts my heart, and I feel like I've seen it so many times. This also translates to being encouraged to lie to patients about what products you're using on them. You can get in so much trouble for that Don't ever let your employer or coworkers, manager, anybody tell you that it's okay or that they won't find out. For example, if you're out of Botox and they want you to use Xeomin without telling the patient. That is so horrible. That patient could be allergic to that and you don't know. Definitely don't do that. I mean, not that you would, but just don't do that. Don't be pressured into it. You got a patient in the chair and they're trying to get you to do something. Never lie to your patient. Sometimes it's hard as a new nurse. You don't always know what to say. It's okay to say, I'm gonna collaborate with my colleague on this one and get back to you with an answer because I wanna make sure we give you a really well-rounded response. That way you're not straight up saying, I don't know, or I've not experienced that before, but you're also not just saying something that might not be true or just saying something that could give the patient bad results. You know what I'm saying? Like, instead of, if the patient asks you a question about what to expect or aftercare or something, it's better to not lie to them and just say like what you think if you're not sure. And of course, don't lie to them about what product you're using on them. People can be really sensitive to different products or have aversions to products. I've known people to put sunscreen on patients who are super against sunscreen and don't want it, don't use it. They don't allow that on their body. When they still have their goggles on, putting sunscreen on them to help them, rubbing it in so they don't notice and telling them it's something else. No, don't do stuff like that. It just is a really dangerous, slippery slope and you don't want to get caught up in your lies. This could also be them telling you to tell them they need more treatments than they actually do. Like if someone's doing laser hair removal and they have like almost no hair left, they've done sessions before and you're being told to just tell them they need another full package of 5, 10, whatever, just to make that sale. That's not fair to the patient. You should be honest and tell them how many sessions you think they actually need, and if you're being pressured to upsell to that degree, red flag. To simplify it, just don't lie to your patients ever. And if you're being asked to lie to your patients, really think about why. Another red flag when working in a new med spa is if you see bullying between coworkers and management or coworkers and each other. This might be just being rude to one another, talking down to one another, very light threatening, like if you talk to my client, I'm gonna make sure you get no other clients, catty sort of stuff like that. That's a huge red flag in a very toxic work environment, and that kind of stuff does not go away even if you've been there a long time. It's very hard when you're new in aesthetics to kind of cut your teeth and to be new in a med spa, especially if people have been working there for a long time. But no amount of bullying is ever okay. If that kind of thing is happening and you reach out to your manager or corporate or whatever and they are not willing to help you, that's a huge red flag that it's probably coming from above and trickling down. Another red flag that's pretty obvious is warnings from other staff members. Gotta think about how I want to word this one. If you start a new job and you have a coworker who's like, be really careful around Sally, she's really mean about her sales, and if you get in between her and a sale, she will get really mad at you or mess up your schedule. Basically, I just take a lot of weight in what my coworkers tell me when I'm new somewhere. I'm very honest with employees about things. I never try to like dissuade them from working somewhere, because if I'm working somewhere, I usually really like it. But if they ask me a question, I'm going to be honest about it because I don't like to lie to people. If a coworker is kind of warning you that this might not be a great job, like if they're saying they're leaving because XYZ, there's all these red flags. I'm not saying you have to leave. You can always try to get your experience, and as long as it's safe, you can work somewhere for a while, get your experience before you move on. Take that message to heart because yeah, they might be just an angry coworker that's just venting or whatever, but a lot of times I have learned over years in many different jobs that they're usually right, and it usually is the way that they say it is. If your coworkers are warning you about things, red flag. Okay, next red flag is if your paychecks are chronically late or bouncing. I mean, this is pretty obvious, but if you're working somewhere and your paycheck is not getting deposited or given to you on the day it was promised to you, or you try to cash it and it bounces, that is a huge red flag. Money is not where it's supposed to be. They might not have enough money to pay you. Money's not being used correctly. Red flag. That's one where I'm like, get out of there. If you're not getting paid correctly, or you're always having to fight to get your check adjusted because it's incorrect, see the writing on the wall. Okay, next red flag. If they are in multiple active lawsuits, that's a red flag. You can always look up the place you're going to work, look and see if there are lawsuits against them, or like look up the name of the owner. I would highly recommend doing that and kind of reading through them. Of course, maybe it was just like a weird one-off situation. I'm not saying like one lawsuit is the worst thing in the world. Customers can sue over literally anything. If there's a bunch of lawsuits, probably a red red flag. Something I would definitely say to do before you work somewhere is go on like Indeed or Glassdoor, look up the name of the place you're going to work and read the reviews. Again, this might be just reviews from angry coworkers that got fired or whatever, but still read them, because there's probably a little bit of truth in these reviews. I don't know. I feel like it's important to read reviews on Indeed and Glassdoor before you work somewhere, because they can give you a little bit of insight on how things are, or at least give you something to like look out for when you go work somewhere. If the review says that management is going to do this and that to you, at least maybe you'll be a little bit more likely to look out for it when it happens. And then my last piece of advice is, I like to do this before I go work somewhere. I go on Yelp and I read the reviews, the good and the bad, because of course you can pay for reviews on Yelp. You can have family members leave good reviews on Yelp. I just like to read through the reviews because I feel like it gives you an idea of what kind of patients you're going to be seeing, what kind of maybe problems you might run into. Like if you see a few bad reviews pertaining to one service, you might know, okay, I need to be really careful when I'm doing that service because it has the potential of making people unhappy. I just think that reviews are huge, and reading through them can really help you get an idea of what your everyday life might be like at that job. Okay, yeah, I think that's everything. I wanted to make this video because I feel like it's important when you're leaving maybe a hospital setting or an outpatient setting and going to a med spa. Med spas are very different than the hospital. They're very different than an outpatient clinic. I want to say they don't have to follow by the same rules. I mean, they probably do, but they don't always follow the same rules. I've heard med spas are a little more Wild West. Not all of them, of course. This is a huge generalization. There are chains, there are privately owned med spas. Everything can be different no matter where you go. I didn't know all of these things when I was first getting into aesthetic nursing, and now that I have learned a lot, I want to like impart all of that knowledge onto you. I hope that your first job in a med spa, or whatever job number in a med spa this is for you, is phenomenal, that you have a great experience, that is lovely. I love my current job so much. The owner is so sweet. My coworkers are phenomenal. Everything is very safe and clean and by the books, and that is huge for me. That's how I thrive. Sorry, there's still construction going on. If you can hear that, look for that, find that. Of course, you have to get your experience somewhere. It's really hard to get experience as an aesthetic nurse. I understand that. Sometimes you have to work in some unsavory places. Go into it thinking like, I'm going to be a sponge. I'm going to try to just pick up on how to work these lasers, how to do all these things that they're offering here, and then go somewhere safe. Don't put your license on the line. You're going to do so great. I'm excited for you if you're watching this video and you're looking to be an aesthetic nurse. I have an Instagram account that I'm using as my aesthetic nurse Instagram. Of course, I've had my personal Instagram for a long time, but I recently sort of split off from that, and now I'm doing an aesthetic nurse page. So if you're interested in aesthetic nursing, please follow me on there. It's just new and growing, but it is Aesthetic Nurse Amy on Instagram. I would love for you to come on there, message me, tell me how you found me, tell me what you think, anything you think I could add to the page. I'm always looking for suggestions. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye guys.